My name is Aaron Bolshaw. I'm part of the SafetyChain team, and I'm here to help tell the story of Grupo Navis and how they power strategic growth with enterprise-wide digital transformation. Just a couple of things off the top while we go through this here. I want to make sure everyone knows we cannot hear you, but we do want to hear from you. So please use the webinar console to the right of your screen and ask questions using that questions section, okay? We're going to save time at the end for questions, and we'll cover them with our presenter. We're going to take an informal conversational approach. This isn't very stuffy. The presenter and I have been working on this for a while, and we've gotten to know each other, and it's a really fun story we want to share. So everyone's favorite question is always, hey, yes, will we get the recording? Absolutely. If you want a link to the slides and the recording, all you got to do is ask. And you can do that in that questions section as well. And then if you do have any audio issues, if you're having troubles, please try the call-in number. A lot of times that helps alleviate any problems. So with that, today's presenter, I'm really happy to be joined by Jari Navarro, who's the head of digital transformation for Grupo Navis. He boasts an exceptional background and experience, starting with background in electromechanical engineering, an MBA from MIT. Now, a while back, and about a year ago, he joined as employee number one for Grupo Navis. And so his background and experience includes supply chain, plant manager, analytics, lean manufacturing, continuous improvement, a compliance background, and an automation engineer. I could not have asked for a more brilliant guest. Jari, welcome, and thank you for spending some time with us today.
Hi, everyone. Aaron, it's a pleasure to be here.
Very good, very good. All right, well, we've been talking about this for months. I'm happy. This is such a cool story. There's a lot to cover, but you're based in Puerto Rico with operations really all over the Caribbean. So I just was curious, what fruits are in season right now? What are you guys getting ready for?
Well, as you can imagine, we are approaching the holiday season, so we are getting ready for bringing and dispatching like grapes, apples, pumpkins, and all those kind of stuff.
Very good, very good. All right, well, I said we got a lot to cover. I'm going to just prove that really quick, which is, well, let me go back one more. Here we go. The agenda, sorry about that. We're going to kind of just cover what is Grupo Navis, what's going on there, talk about this digital transformation, right? There's these 10 key priorities that through this process that emerge, and we're going to kind of spend some time looking at that because it actually formulates this quality mindset. You have now created an operational backbone, or this ops backbone. I want you to describe that a little bit for everyone because I think it's really important. Obviously, we're going to talk about some of the benefits and results from the solution implementation, and then we have a special sort of section set aside to talk about claims and inventory return because you've actually been able to digitize that as well. So with that, Jari, will you start just very quickly by telling us a little bit about Grupo Navis?
Sure. Well, definitely, Grupo Navis is a kind of strategic vehicle for two purposes. One of them is for consolidating operations, and the other one is for making investments. And it's a really new company. It was inscribed or registered in 2018, but we started officially operating last year. However, we have been in the farm to fork supply chain for more than 60 years with one of our legacy companies, which is Caribbean Produce. Basically, we are the biggest produce distributor here in Puerto Rico. And besides that, in the counterpart of Caribbean Produce is Fresh House. Fresh House is the opposite. It's a direct to consumer, and it's a new company. Basically, it's a startup. It born this year. Besides that, we have another BU, which is Guanabana US and Exchange. And basically, those companies are for commercializing and distributing products from the Latin America to the North America, US, Canada, and Mexico. And also we have a NGO company, which is Fundación Navis. And basically the mission behind Fundación Navis is to tackle and counteract food insecurity, which means the lack of access to nutritious food. And, you know, Grupo Navis as a whole, we consider ourselves as a, you know, purpose-driven company. There are many competencies that we have, but one of them, which is really, really important for us, is quality as a key competency. So this is a kind of snapshot of what we are and what we are pursuing as well.
Yeah, so this is great. This actually is interesting because an enterprise of this scale, automatically my mind sort of thinks of the complexity that goes into this. And here we see, you know, here's some of the supply chain that you're working with, right? Here's some of the logos. A lot. I mean, I see a lot of these out here in California. We see all across. There's a couple of other customers of ours I see on here. So, you know, it's fun to see that this network kind of come together. But this enterprise, right? This is it's complex, right? And so
definitely.
you had some complex challenges being group or employee number one, right? So you start out here. Let's go back when you first started, right? Day one or week one, you started to get to work on some things. But what, Jari, what were your priorities when you started?
Yeah, it was lucky that I am the employee number one, and the approach was pretty fun because the first thing these guys asked me when they hire me is like, we want to transform our business. We believe in digital transformation. We need your help in, you know, moving forward an agenda that make us a better company and that we can accomplish the things that we are pursuing. And, you know, for me, digital transformation is a kind of buzzword where, you know, it's a popular phrase, but sometimes it's misunderstood. And, you know, the first thing that I discuss with them and we get a mutual agreement is what is digital transformation. And digital transformation is about people, processes, and technology in that order, in order to create value, right? So once that what was clear, was pretty easy to establish an agenda. We have to focus on people. We need to check our processes. And lastly, we are going to bring technology for fostering all this transformation that we are pursuing. So regarding the priorities, we are facing this in two different front lines. One of them is how we can deliver value to our customers and how to create a kind of operational backbone. In some other terminology, people mention this as a digitize and digital. And digital is regarding with a customer-oriented approach, and digitize is more like a operational approach. So basically, those are, you know, the first priorities, or at macro level, what we are pursuing with this digital transformation.
And this is elegant. This I think really boils a lot down into the core, very basic needs that you needed to get started. Because again, this is a Herculean operation. You've got to get in there and start going. I love how, you know, people first, figure out processes, technology. This is going to start to create that value. And then your priorities, hey, guess what? Customers, right? Deliver value. But I like this operational backbone idea that you came to. So I want to just jump in really quick and ask you what that is. What is an operational backbone? Why was it important to include as one of these initial priorities, right?
Sure. I think the easiest way for explaining this is focusing what is not an operational backbone. And basically, one of the things that I'm witnessing in many companies, including our companies, of course, is that way we operate, or the way we operate our different processes, business processes. It's curious, but I'm seeing, for example, departments that have 4 people, same job titles, doing the same function, or in hypothetically the same function, but they are doing it in different fashions. It's like everybody do the process in their own way. The steps they follow, the data they are using for making decisions, the different applications, that technology. And it's like you have people, sitting one next to the other one, trying to do the same thing, but it's completely the opposite, right? So what's the problem here is like the outcome is not predictable. The processes are not teachable. They are hard to transfer. It's hard to monitor it or track performance. So what we are looking is the opposite of this. Is try to standardize. So it's like the spaghetti fashion explained that. It is very complex because it's hard to improve. It's hard to streamline because everybody is doing in their best interest or in their best effort, right? So that's more than less what is not an operational backbone, and I think the spaghetti fashion explained it pretty well. So in the flip side, right, what is an operational backbone? Basically, is a coherent set of a standardized process, along with supporting infrastructure, application, and data intended to ensure the quality and efficiency of core business operations. And I'm reading this because it's a definition. So no, it's the definition, and I wanted to deliver the definition of what is an operational backbone. So if you notice here in this figure, we have a standard processes layer is the first layer. Data, which is shared along the organization or the different stakeholders. Applications that are shared as well, that everybody has access, that they can use it in the same way. The same technologies, and they are supported with IT governance. I think we have a little mistake there. It's not environment, it's more like governance, right? And supporting for corporate network and infrastructure. So basically, high level, that's the operational backbone.
Got it. Yeah, even just before here, it looks really confusing. But when I look at this is not rare. What you're seeing here. These challenges exist in a lot of multi-company organizations or these bigger, more complex enterprises. This is fueled by tribal knowledge, little to no written processes. You got performance gaps everywhere, and all of these things make it really challenging to deliver value consistently to the customer. Where this then begins to say, okay, when you standardize processes across applications, then share that data, you are able to then really produce that value chain, I think, much more effectively. So I love that approach, this operational backbone. It's fantastic. I like that view of it. So that's the vision. That's where you got to get to, right? That ops. But where do you start, right? Like, so what do you do to begin that transformation, Jari?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, digital transformation is about people, processes, and technologies. So people first, right? So my first month, I spent time talking with my colleagues, our stakeholders, different departments, and I had like 36 one-on-one meetings with all these people representing 4 divisions, 12 area departments, and the approach was pretty simple. It's what is needing right now? What are you need right now from your standpoint? How we can improve the company and how we can improve your department. So basically, that was the approach. It was more like gathering information, understanding what people are saying, and once I have all that information, it was pretty easy to understand the different common denominator. It was like a certain patterns pop up, and what's more easy for me to understand, okay, the priorities are in this area. And one of the conversation that I had was an amazing conversation, was with our QA manager, Silvia Oquendo. And talking with her, I was amazed about how she could articulate pretty concisely where are those improvement opportunities. And she mentioned me things regarding how we manage our inventory, and we will talk later on about why this is important. And obviously, in her role, it's pretty important to proliferate quality in the whole sense. You know, it's not just like gathering or filling product specs. It's broader than that. It's how you improve your processes, how you can create leadership, how you can control, how you can improve, and many, many other things. Of course, we are a regulated company, so we have to comply with the USDA and some other certification, which are very important for us. And one of the things she mentioned me is, you know, that we have to manage all this quality program in a manually, right? So basically using everything decentralized, no tools, everything 100% manual. And you know, I realized talking with Sylvia that for us, it's really important to define a kind of hub for quality and organizational excellence. And I saw it this like a kind of molecule that we could grow up and that we could disseminate along the organization and along our corporate group. So basically, that's the first approach in terms of people.
Yeah, this is important. This is really important to note. Not only just the people first approach, but how you approached those people. You didn't go in there saying, hey, let's get a list of all the things you do on a daily basis. That'll scare people. You said, how do we improve? Right? Immediately starting with a growth mindset, setting the tone to open up the discussions that say, how can we get better? And that is fantastic. I love that you went after looking for the pains, knowing that in that process you're going to uncover the difficulties they have. And it sounds like you found a champion there with Sylvia, right?
Definitely. She's pretty savvy about you know, quality management and organizational excellence. So for her was pretty clear about what we can do for improving. And once you find something or somebody like her, you discover champions, and those champions takes care of starting that transformation.
That's great. That's great. So processes, very important here. Let's, Jari, talk us through this value chain, please.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things we did here is mapping out our value chain, right? So basically is how we create value and how we deliver value and how we can extract value, right? And, you know, we mapped out all the core activities in our business. As I mentioned, we create value through managing inventory, right? So we have the trading component, which is bringing to the island or delivering to other geographies inventory, specifically produce and organic food and things like that. the shipping component, the warehouse, and the commercial, and the delivery. And all those activities at the same time have implicit main processes, right? So one of the things we realized is in all those core activities, there is a common factor, which is inventory, right? So we have to improve everything related with inventory management. How to do that? We can use quality tools and organizational excellence tools. So that's the link between the quality competency that I talked previously and all these processes. And in that way, it was easier for us to define where to start, right?
Yeah, and it's important. Like going back to your original priority is it was really that focus on the customer and getting quality, on-time delivery, and consistency out of that. That's really like where you're gonna see a lot of value added. Like see it, it's there because you're getting it on time. Your customers are delighted, right? The quality and the consistency is there, and all of this goes into that single point. So I love this graphic, Jari. So the processes are second, but you knew at some point after mapping out these processes and understanding what all these core functions do and how do people interact and how are we actually doing this? Then how did you prioritize all of those different and maybe some competing priorities that started to come up through those conversations? How did you begin the process, or sorry, not the process, but the prioritize those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. Basically, talking with our team and specifically with Sylvia, we ask ourselves which is really, really important for improving all these value chain and how the quality tools can help us in improving that and what are those specific aspects that going to make us a better company. So process improvement approach, the training, that component is super important. Internal audits, for those one familiar, internal audit is a tool for discovering where are your deficiencies in order to improve it. So that exercise is pretty important for continuous improvement. Corrective action, preventive action is once you discover something, you want to avoid that situation happens again. So a strong model for managing CAPAs is really important. A document control for supporting, all these processes that we want to standardize. And of course, there are the opposite side, or no, the complementary side, which is the compliance part. Because if we don't comply with certain certifications, we cannot make deals or we cannot make business with many companies. So for us, the FDA, comply with the FDA is very important. Comply with the GFSI is very important. With FSVP is very important. HACCP, which is another important tool, part of the compliance component, which is the hazard analysis of critical control points. So there are many other things, but we cannot boil the ocean, at the very beginning. So we say, okay, we have 10 different components, 10 key priorities. So let's try to pursue that, how we are going to improve these quality tools with technology in order to improve our value chain and in order to disseminate this along the organization and along the corporate group. So that's more than less the approach we follow.
Yeah, this digitization like pathway that you've got right here. I mean, it's pretty complex to do any one of these, but you had the shall we call it an opportunity to do you had to do all of this, right? So
yeah,
when you start to look at these, what we start to see is this quality mindset, because if you look at all of these systems, right, they are core to delivering better quality to your customers, and that consistency that you had a priority on. And so it's really interesting though. You talked about training, traceability, doc control, all the compliance side, there's still a lot to kind of pick away at. You knew, okay, here's 10 things we've got to go do, but then you added that layer, right? You had to then say, we have to apply technology. Walk us through, Jari, if you would, how you evaluated this technology.
Yeah.
This is fantastic, the sort of scientific or the mathematical way that you did this, right?
Yeah. Here, everybody have a cognitive bias, right? And it is very easy to lean to certain tool without really have the scrutiny of evaluating it. And so in order to avoid that, we decide to pursue something more objective. So the way we did it, or the way we approach this is, okay, we have this list of attributes that we consider important to implement, or those key components listed there. And we ask ourselves, okay, do we really need this? Let's evaluate it in a scale from 0 to 3, right? 3 as the most important, 0 the less important. Obviously for us, all of them are between 2 and 3 because they are really important. And then we challenge different providers, including you, of course. And we put in the column, okay, how SafetyChain rates from 0 to 10. 10 is really good. 0 is very poor. So basically, we did it with the different providers, line by line, and we create this kind of weighted rating, right? So once we have all those rates, we sum it up, and we had a final score. Okay, this is obviously SafetyChain is 252, the other competitors 237 and 112. That was part of the first component. The second component, obviously, is the financial component. And we did a kind of total cost of ownership exercise. Unfortunately, we didn't include here, but that's the approach that we follow for making the decision.
Yeah, that's great. It's fun though that you took this time to do this in a methodical way. And I think what generally tends to happen when you do this is you get the enterprise much more confident in the decision that you've made. One, you've gone to everyone, you've included them in the process of identifying the priorities. You've gone, then you included some key people into this process as well, right? And then you've got an honest system that says, here's the need, here's the rating by solution provider, and here's the raw score, right? The cost of ownership, the total cost of ownership always has to all take place. Because let's say we scored, you've got let's say, just for the sake of argument here, Jari, option 2 on the very right there, their weighted scale was outstanding, like 100%, everything was good, but it's $1 million solution. That's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like there's just this obvious effect that a total cost of ownership needs to take, that you need to take into consideration. So I think this is fantastic. So.
Sure.
And I think you also, if I go back here, in the process of this, you're talking with some salespeople, right? You're getting on the phone. You're going to get some demonstrations, right? You got some software.
Definitely. Yeah.
Was that just you in a room looking at demos? Who did you bring with you on those?
No, I was the less important person in the room. The quality team and different stakeholders. In the demo days, they are the people to convince, and I was the people to support them, right? So was pretty neat because basically they could clear all the questions. Maybe I ask certain stuff more technical, like cybersecurity and things like that, because of my role. But for the features and process standpoint, basically they led the conversation. So it was very beneficial for understanding the capabilities right now and the potential capabilities in the near future and in the long term. So we assess that as well.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So now, again, picking where do you start? You had some things coming up. So, like, out of those 10, did you say, hey, we've got to start with one? Do we start with a few? What was your methodology for starting digitization?
Yeah. Well, based on the circumstances, our first goal was to comply with certain certification audits. And I don't remember exactly the time frame, but it was like just 1 month after we finished the implementation, the SafetyChain implementation, we received the unannounced audit from the SQF. So for us, it was very important to have everything ready. So obviously we want to do a lot of things at the same time, but the priority was, okay, let's do everything we need to do in order to comply with that certifications, USDA and SQF, both of them. So that was the first approach. Be ready and everybody ready, because nobody knows when the SQF people going to knock our door, right? That was the first priority. Second, it was regarding process improvement in general terms, but more specifically, we need to start doing certain stuff with the product inspection. As I mentioned you previously, all our forms were manually, papers everywhere and things like that. The digitizing the micro biology forms, temperature control. We are in the produce supply chain, so as you can imagine, for us, freshness is really important, and for having freshness, you need really good control from your temperature utilities, right? CAPA and root cause analysis, really important as well, customer claims and returns. And obviously, the quality department, they have to do many reports, understand many data. They support the top managers in a lot of decisions regarding complaints, when to purchase, when not, and things like that. So that was the second stage. What we are pursuing right now, we would like to expand our temperature monitoring capabilities along the supply chain. This is very aggressive, but I think next step is to do something with our fleet. So that's more than less the approach we follow.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a good way to start. You've got some audits coming up, and you're like, well, let's get ready for those. So that's good. I do like the approach though here, right? So inside of this first step, tell me a little bit about. I mean, you guys had to have been writing SOPs like crazy. Were you just in document sort of creation mode to make sure that there's this underlying structure to support that operational backbone?
Yeah, completely. Definitely. As I mentioned, once you can standardize your processes, those processes can be digitized. Otherwise, you cannot digitize something that is not standardized, right? So yeah. For us, was really important the document control part, and have all those, not just the SOPs, policies as well, is important, and it's a good tool for deploying a common sense about how the processes should work.
Yeah. So in that process, I'm going to dive in just a little bit there on the documentation. Did you take a moment? Some of our customers really report back to us that some of the value they really get out of going through this process as a whole is reviewing those things and getting them into better shape, so that when you apply the technology, you're not applying technology to a bad process. Did that happen for Grupo Navis?
Definitely. Once you have forms that people have to fill out manually, there are a lot of mistakes. We are human. The human error is presented always. And, empty fields, or the data is incorrect, or there are certain rules for document control that when you have to fill it out and you have to fill a lot of them very often, it's very hard to extract data, analyze data, and improve the thing. So that component of transitioning from paper to digital save a lot of time, and that's something that we can discuss later on, and I think we will do it in this conversation.
Yeah, good. It's always about, improve that process, then apply the technology. It never ceases to amaze me, boy. If you take the opportunity to really think about the processes, is there anything you can optimize? Do it then, and then apply technology, right? So, and that kind of what brings me to the next question, Jara, which is, we're going to start to get into sort of the benefits and the results of what we've got here. How does the solution, SafetyChain here, right, support standardized processes?
This is a kind of very straightforward slide, and the benefits are tangible here. And this is real data. So this is basically the life of one of our QA managers, right?
Yeah.
She had to spend like 5 hours per week in documentation or document verification, 5 hours. Once we could move this from paper to digital, she's just investing 1 hour, right? From 5 to 1. Data analysis, just imagine taking out all this information from paper forms to an Excel spreadsheet, and a lot of mistakes, and data cleansing, and data normalization, and many stuff. It was a task that took like 8 hours per week. Right now, she can do it in 0.3 hours, or its equivalent 20 minutes. As I mentioned you previously, the quality role, the QA role is really important in our decision-making process. The general manager support many of their decisions in the inputs that the QA manager provide, and this person has to provide dashboards and report every week, right? And it took like 4 hours. Right now is a task that take us like 10 minutes. So if you combine all this before and after hours, previously that person had to spend 17 hours in doing just these 3 tasks, and right now it's just 1.4 hours. So it's the percentage of reduction time is 92%, and this is great. This person right now, she can focus on some other task, she can deliver more value, she can get more, she can be focusing continuous improvement and things like that. So that's part of the benefits that we are starting to experiment. We just have like we finished this project 4 months ago, and I think that these numbers going to be more compelling in the upcoming month and year. So that's more or less the flavor behind how we are getting better.
Yeah. And this is just a snapshot of one piece of that value chain optimization that we were talked about earlier. Going through this process, this is exactly what you should see, right? This is why digital transformation is so important, right? It's numbers like this too that really make me happy, because I know the life of a data analyst. Those 8 hours are horrible. No one wants that, right? Now what you have is the ability to collect data at the source. It's immediately then available in the application. So, you're going to be able to make the presentation of the data instantly, and that leads to a lot better decision making as well. So this is fantastic. 17 hours to less than an hour and a half. And so, some of the things that not just Grupo Navis, but other SafetyChain customers really start to report then is the impact is big, right? So in a year, that's 800 plus hours. In a time when right now here, in the US, there's a big labor struggle, right? This right here is what process manufacturers, produce, anybody, food and beverage, this is a big way to solve some of that, right? So, but beyond that, supplier compliance, visibility into that purchasing, quality, and finance, you start to see things a little bit differently instead of having this on papers here and there, right? The document control, right? Stop using incorrect and obsolete documents. You get more error free, right? I have to imagine, Jaria, in the early days when you were going around and you were interviewing people, you saw paper that was probably a copy of a copy of a copy. You barely read it, right? Like, because it's like, oh, I don't have. Some people may not have even had the original, like access to the original. They just have this really cruddy piece of paper. Is that accurate, or am I making this up? Did you
Definitely. And remember, our warehouse, or one of our warehouse, the temperature is 35 Fahrenheit degrees, so it's hard to fill out forms at that temperature. They are forklifts moving around. There is a lot of inventory coming, a lot of inventory going out, so it's a hard place for filling out a form and for carrying papers and clipboards and things like that, and suddenly you can lose your pen, and there's a lot of things that could happen in an environment like this one. And right now they are carrying a tablet and they are just filling it, and they can bring different forms and switch from one form to the other one, and obviously it's easier for everybody to manage it in this way.
Yeah, that mobile tablet really is proving itself super valuable in so many aspects of operations. So, and here, the audits, you're ready for them now. You don't have to go around searching for key documents because it's paperless. You can, with a couple of clicks, be ready to go. And that, by the way, has its own values to the auditor, right? We hear time and again reports from our customers of those auditors coming in and going, okay, good, they've got SafetyChain, because it really does do two things intrinsically. One, it improves the confidence that the auditor has in your processes, right? I see Grupo Navis is investing in technology and supporting these. That's good,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, more than that, I think when I talked with Sylvia about the impression of the auditors when they saw this technology, the comment was, this is a real evidence of continuous improvement, and that's what auditors are pursuing, and all the question will be to address the commitment, the company commitment in continuous improvement. So for the auditor's standpoint, was pretty evident that just 1 year ago, how easy it was to do or perform the audit comparing to now was much easier. For everybody, the job is easier, even for the auditors. So that's a good point. And the other thing that I don't want to overlook is, when we have a tool like this one, you can see how you are performing in a daily basis or in real time. So we have a kind of a score that is based on all the different programs and modules that we are running, and we have a daily score. So basically, you don't need that an auditor comes to your facility once per year for having a sense about how we are performing in terms of compliance and quality management. So for me, that's very valuable. And when something happened, everybody will be noticed right away. So that's an important aspect. It's like a compliance in real time. I could summarize it in that way.
Yeah, compliance and that quality, like you said, I mean, you can make decisions a lot quicker. You know, if you've got something wrong with a pallet or something, the shipment comes in and you see something didn't check out, you have to make a decision very quickly, right? And this system empowers that, right? It gives you that ability to support that. And it also, you know, Jari, the people side of this also shouldn't be overlooked, right? How does SafetyChain support your people, right?
Well, it's just, you know, one of the first thing is, and I think many companies are facing this, is the shortage in personal shortage, right? So just imagine if we have to run in our quality system without people, without technology. So that was, or that is a really huge caution for counteracting this challenge that is facing many companies around the globe. That's one of the points. The second one is you have to focus on make people's job easier, right? You want that they be success in every task they perform. Nobody wants to do a task twice or three times or four times. You want to make sure that they can be success every time they are performing something. The other thing is, you know, the adoption and usability, right? If the tool is easy to adopt and is easy to use it, so like the continuous improvement grows up, you know, like in organic fashion. It's like they have more time. They have more time for analyzing stuff, for making their job even easier, even more valuable. They can provide better insights. Once they provide better insights, they will have more exposure to the different hierarchical levels of the organization. So it's like many things happening when the people have the right tools for performing every task in a daily basis.
Yeah, and that's really the core of digital transformation, right? It has to empower the people. And when you make them their job easier and them more successful, they are absolutely going to redirect that energy. It's not about just squeezing hours and labor out of it. It's really about giving people the right tools so they can focus on delivering better product to the customer. So more consistently. I love that. And that continuous improvement is really important, right? That's, I think, speaks, if I may, to your management of this and Grupo Navis's a stance, which is let's empower our people to make continuous improvement a reality and actually give them the tools to do it. I think it's fantastic.
Sure.
So I want to get into this is really interesting. So not anywhere on your top 10 list of things you need to tackle did customer complaints in the claim process come into play. But we've got something to show, and I wanted to go through this with you. So Grupo Navis is, to set the story, is using SafetyChain for this process. So I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of space, Jari, to walk us through what did you see, what could be the impact financially for the organization, the approach, how everything works. Tell us about claims and inventory return.
Well, I think here is more, the approach was more regarding which are the biggest opportunities in terms of costs, right? In cost optimization. As you can imagine, we are in the farm to fork supply chain, produce, fruits, vegetables, and all those kind of stuff. And, you know, in this kind of business, there is food waste, right? Everywhere. It's a global problem. And, you know, we are not exempt of facing that problem. So we have a lot of returns and claims from our customers. In fact, from from the food waste standpoint, claims and returns is our number one, let's say, improvement opportunity, right? So once we understood that, okay, how we are going to improve this? By the way, this is a 7 figures USDA problem, right? So how to do this? How to improve this? So basically, it took us a while for doing this because there are many stakeholders involved this, many departments in the organization, accounting, operations, quality, customer service, our carriers, the customer by itself. So many people involved in this. Every time we receive a claim, it was very easy to solve it because we haven't streamlined the workflow or the process. So basically, sometimes our customer reach out, the customer service representative. Sometimes that person reach out the sales or the key account person. Sometimes they reach it out through WhatsApp, text messages, phone calls, emails, whatever channel you can imagine. So it's like come on. So we had the spaghetti fashion that we talked previously, right? Completely. And for addressing every claim, there is a lot of information that you need to gather, right? PO number, invoice number, franchise or customer, location, SKUs, evidence, so many things. So gather all that information was almost impossible, right? And we had a policy that we want to solve these claims in less than 48 hours. Unfortunately, we couldn't solve it because there were many things, information backs and forth, and somebody go to the other department and talk with one people, and it was a mess. So once and we can go deeper about how exactly we did it, but once we standardize the process, once we digitize the process, we reduce the response time for every claim from 88 hours. Sometimes it's just 1 hour. Worst case scenario is 12 hours, but I think 1 hour and 2 hours is basically what we are getting. For first time, we could say no, that claim is not accepted because it's not gathering or meeting the criteria that we have defined for grant a claim, right? So in this chart that you can see in the right side of the screen, this is data from, I think, 2 months. So basically, we received 166 claims, and we could say no in a firm way in 22 times. So basically, it's around 12%, 10% that we could say no, and it's not a no and that benefits everybody, because for us, obviously, we are defending our interests, but at the same time, we are collecting all this data. We are analyzing what happened. So every, claim, we have all the data, right? We can respond quicker. We don't want that our customer have to return that inventory because we want that they can make profit or they can create margin from that product. So in that way, we are improving our supply chain, making sure we can do, we can understand what happened in terms of quality. So we can do initiative for improving the quality of our products, and they can be benefiting in having better products. So that's something, high level about how this happened.
And I think it's important to just expose a couple of artifacts here really quick, Jari, because you had to start all over again with the same process, but it was the same process of digitization, this transformation.
Yeah.
You had to identify, you did an SOP claim request and returns operational like process form, right? This, you said it goes into finance. Obviously, you worked with finance to make sure there was a different invoice template so we could understand how to get these chargebacks the right way. Then created the electronic claim form in SafetyChain. We required people to fill that out. Now you've got all the evidence. You've got everything you need in one spot, not a WhatsApp, not a call, not an email, it's all in one spot so you can make a better determination. And you can see on that claim report some photos even of what happened, right? So it's evidence-based, right? You've got the policies, you deploy them, and then you even did training, right? This is exactly how to pull in a claim request like this. Customer, some people call it customer complaints or chargebacks. There's 100 different ways to call it, but it finally gave your operators, your people, the ability to say no. And we talked a little bit about this, Jari, and that sort of fright that you might have the first time you have to say no. I wanted to give you a moment to talk about that very human aspect of saying, no, we're not going to accept that claim for the first time, will you?
Definitely. It's a cultural aspect that we have to face as a company. We are protecting our customer interest, but we have to protect our interests as well, right? Collaboration in supply chain is essential for success. So we are looking for win-win situations. If we can get better in our processes, we can deliver more value to our customers. So basically, that was the approach. It's not an easy approach. It's not easy to say no, but the intention behind that always was the best, for everybody in this supply chain.
Yeah, and that was important. That thing, the distinction you made. This is done so that you can get good quality product to your customers so that they can sell it. They're not making any money not selling bad fruit, So let's make that the point of this, and I think that's fantastic the way you've done this. So we're closely coming in on our time, Jari, but I have a few questions that came in through the presentation I wanted to get through. The first one was, okay, so I'm kind of synthesizing this. How will you implement the operations backbone going forward?
Of course. I think that the approach is based on needs. It's the same approach that we already are doing. We have to ask people, where are the needs? We have to take a look our processes, our value chain. We need to articulate what exactly we want to solve. And once we are clear about what we want to solve, we will ask what technology is the best for doing this. So basically is repeating the same process. This is an iterative approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And I think that, this operational backbone, it's very much this operational excellence as well. And I think that that's an important thing to be able to show a company, which is, listen, here's how this works. We're confident in these processes and the technology. We've completely digitized or transformed these other operations, and confidence is built there. So I think that that's a big part of it too. So somebody just had a really interesting question. How did the cooler temp checks work? So on the temperature check, when you're checking that, can you explain what's happening now and what we've got going on sort of in the future for that?
I think we are halfway about our final goal. Our final goal is to have everything digitized. And right now we are, there is a person gathering this information cooler by cooler. Fortunately, they are collecting that information in this digital form, But once that person collects that information, immediately goes to the safety chain. If it's out of specs, immediately the different stakeholders or the persons accountable for this will be notified. Last stage is to have everything digitized. So basically, is collecting the information directly from the sensors up to the safety chain platform.
Yeah, and that's ideal. We don't want people walking around. We have that interim step, and it's important. You've said it 100 times to me. I love this. Time and temperature, right? Get that stuff to the customer in a timely fashion. Maintain that temperature. So, and yeah, that fleet is going to happen too. So this is a hardware thing, right? So this is a full enterprise solution. You're going to be able to plug in to sensors. You're going to be able to have this talk with SafetyChain without the need for that manual intervention. So I think that's great. Somebody also asked really quick, how did you get the pictures into the claim into the system?
Okay, yeah. As I mentioned, we had a lot of communication channels, and for make things easier for our customers, we define just one channel, and basically is a direct communication between the customer and our customer service representative. So they send us the information through email, and we are filling out that forms in that department, the customer service department. It would be great if later on the customer can fill out the form immediately, but there are certain things that we cannot control, like the processes that our customer have implemented in their premises. But basically that's the way that we are doing it right now.
Yeah, and technologically speaking, that is feasible. If anyone has access to that form, which you can grant access and logins, but we won't get into the
definitely.
No, you're able to take these pictures on a device, and it immediately captures it as a part of that record. So what you're saying though is your claims department then takes all of the evidence, puts it into that form, including those pictures. That's what I heard you say, right?
Exactly. And for example, once the form is filled out, certain stakeholder will be notified. And for example, the quality department, they have all that reporting. Basically, it's a report, right? We have a form, and then it's a report. And once that person have the report, they say, okay, let me check what happened. And they check, they evaluate, they do an investigation if necessary, and they make a recommendation to the customer service representative for go or no go with the claim. And in the same loop, the accounting department, they are informed all the time, so they know, okay, so in our accounts receivables, we have to consider or not that specific claim or that specific case.
And that shouldn't be overlooked, Jari. What you said was really important. After this claim is filled out, a workflow kicks off so that people are notified to say, oh, wait, you have to make a decision. And that's what's driving that workflow in SafetyChain, is driving that closer or near-term decision, right? Because at that point, there's still some fruit sitting on the back dock somewhere, waiting for somebody to tell it what to do.
Exactly. And if you don't, attend it quickly, you'll stack up a lot of claims, and it's like a snowball effect, right? And it's very frustrating and things like that. So right now, we are keeping a flow of information, a flow of decisions, instead of managing things like batch, right? That you have to make decisions from a lot of things that are stuck up in somewhere in your organization.
Yeah, no, great point. Yeah, that claim queue is keep that low. So last question, Jari, for you. This is interesting. We didn't even get to it, meant to, but how did somebody politely ask, how did you do on that first SQF audit after implementing SafetyChain?
The first SQF, well, it was great. The auditor was fascinated with all this, improvement, all this deploy. really good score. We get 90 something, very, very high. I think the highest score we have achieved so far. And it doesn't end there, right? We are improving, and bringing new things. And our expectation is higher score, sustain all these changes, because that's the challenge. I think implementing something is tough, but maintaining it is even harder, right? So
Yeah.
we did it pretty well, and I'm pretty sure, feel confident that we will do it better in the upcoming years.
I think that's great, Jari. We are unfortunately out of time. I think it's important to note your journey has just begun. Like, you're going to see a lot more, I think, of that value chain. With that continual improvement now on deck, on board, empowered by employees that are using a great technology to do their jobs better. And ultimately, I think this is a fantastic story of digital transformation. I really want to thank you again for taking all the time you have with us to put this out there. And I can't wait to hear your next stories, because you're doing some really cool stuff with SafetyChain, and I just know that you guys are going to crush it. So very well done. Thanks again for joining us, Jari.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here, and let's keep in contact. Thank you very much.
Very good. All right, thanks. That'll end it for us today, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And again, if you did want the slides and the video and all that good stuff, I did see a couple of requests come in here. Thanks, Mark. And we will get those out to you as soon as possible. Thanks again for joining, and have a great day. Cheers.